The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello there, everyone. It's a delight to see you for my Psychic Hour. As most of you know, I do this Psychic Hour monthly. It is always free. It's my gift to you. And I am just so grateful to see all of you here. And this audience is continuing to grow and grow and grow every month as we keep meeting. We've been doing this now, I think, since 2014 or 2015. It's been a while, and we're going to keep on doing it. Tonight's Psychic Hour is going to be a really, truly unique next hour with you folks, because I'm going to be combining this with talking to you about the eclipse, which is really so perfect because it's happening tomorrow evening, which actually not tomorrow evening. For some of you, it's tomorrow evening. For those of us here in the U.S., it's tomorrow at around, as you can see from the chart, 1:46 p.m. The eclipse is going to start in the U.S. on the west coast of the country, and it's going to travel across the country and go out through the southern part of the country on the east coast. And of course, during all that time, it's going to be taking a couple of hours. But for those of us who actually see it in that moment, it'll be about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes long when it's actually totally eclipsed. And it is a total eclipse. It is the first total eclipse here in the U.S. in about 99 years. So it's been a long time since we've had an eclipse here that is total, meaning that the moon is going to block out just about all of the sun if you are in the direct path of travel. Now, you need to know that there are total eclipses of the sun pretty frequently in other parts of the country. I think the last one was something like a year and a half ago. Don't remember where that was. And there are solar eclipses, usually 2 of them or sometimes even 3 of them a year. So it's not so rare to have a solar eclipse. It is rare to have one that's happening in your nation, in your place that you live, that is a total one. That's a little bit unusual. Like I said, the last one we've had here is 99 years. It's just going to be a lot of fun to talk about this. So I decided to combine this little talk I'm going to give you about eclipses and about how this eclipse is going to affect you. So yes, I'm going to get to that with my normal Psychic Hour, where you're going to be able to ask whatever question you like on anything. So it's nice to kind of put this direct thing in. As we get started, I would like to make a couple of announcements, as I always do. First of all, please jot down right now on your calendar that the next Psychic Hour is going to be on September 17th. And of course, that'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And anybody, no matter where you are on our wonderful planet Earth, you are invited to attend. I also want to mention that my reading special for this month, and of course, you know, my reading specials are readings that I discount so that they become affordable for people just like you to check out and see what it's like to get a reading with Sandy Anastasi and her guides. And this particular reading special for this month is going to be all about how you can grow, where you can best grow right now, and what parts of your life you should be targeting to be able to achieve the greatest results for the greatest personal growth. And I'm going to help you, my guides are going to help you to figure out how to do that and make that growth and make your dreams start to happen right now. So that's what this month's reading special is about. And of course, I am a future-oriented, a predictive psychic astrologer channel. And so all of my readings always focus on how to get you into the best place in your future. We also have coming up, I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be starting the level 4 of my Anastasi System of Psychic Development program. That program is happening right now. It started back in early July, and we've already gone through almost the whole first 3 levels of it. Everybody's doing wonderfully and loving it. And level 4 is going to start in a couple of weeks. That's online. You can check it on my website. It's www.sandyanastasi.com. We are going to be talking about channeling and mediumship in level 4. So if anybody here wants to join in that class, you can. In order to get certified in all 6 levels of the Anastasi system of psychic development, you must have completed all 6 levels. So this wouldn't be to get a certification, but if you wanted to learn about it, you are certainly welcome to look into joining that class. And if you do want to get the certification and you're willing to put in the extra blood, sweat, and tears, it is possible to make up the sessions you've missed. So again, you can check that out right on my website. I also want to mention that coming up this fall, and I know I do have a lot of professional psychics, astrologers, and holistic health practitioners here online this evening, so you might be interested in this. On October 10th, 17th, and 24th, it's a 3-night class. I'm doing my mastermind coaching again. It is for professionals and aspiring professionals in the psychic, mediumship, holistic healing fields. And again, I do a lot of channeling in that class. I do a lot of direct coaching and guidance to help you to get your business off the ground, to be able to really take your business and the skills that you have as a professional and or aspiring professional in your chosen metaphysical field, and I can help you get that into a position where you are able to make the income doing what you love and doing what you are most talented and capable of doing. That's what that class is all about. So put that on your calendar too, and you can find it once again on my website. It's October 10th, 17th, and 24th. It meets 3 times. One last thing, don't forget the psychic cruise with myself and obviously my guides, my beautiful assistant, Lisa Freeman, and a host of my students and teachers of the Anastasi system, and lots and lots and lots of friends are going to be taking over the Norwegian cruise ship that we are on for that week we're gone. So if you want to join us, the cruise is November 25th through December 2nd. It's right after Thanksgiving. And oh, I would so love to meet some of you there. I've seen some of you. I haven't seen your faces. I've seen your names and I've heard your voice on this call for so many years now. It would be such a delight to actually meet you. So if that works for you, look into it. And again, it's on my website, how to get registered, how to make that connection. Back to the eclipse. Why are just eclipses in general, solar eclipses, so important? What's interesting is that I have been an astrologer now for almost 40 years, and I've learned to follow the eclipses very carefully, because what happens beneath that period, during that period that surrounds an eclipse, is kind of like a movie trailer into what's going to come in the next 6 months of your life. And honest to God, I've seen this through working with not just hundreds, but thousands of clients, one-on-one connections with people, where I can look at their astrology chart and I can say, okay, this eclipse is happening in this house on this planet, and this is what should be going on right now. And they'll say, oh, yeah, it is. And then I'll say, well, this is the reason this is so intense right now, and folks pay attention, the reason things are so intense in our whole world right now is because the energy intensifies around that eclipse period. Why does it intensify? Because it's giving you the movie trailer of the next 6 months. So everything that's going on, good, bad, indifferent, is basically crunched into that period. Now, how long a period is it? It depends on the eclipse. Most solar eclipses are accompanied by one lunar eclipse that happens 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after. Now, if you've been following this particular solar eclipse had its lunar eclipse, its one, 2 weeks before. There are, however, occasional solar eclipses that actually have 2 lunars, one 2 weeks before and one 2 weeks after. So here's the scoop. you should be keeping an eclipse diary, not just for this eclipse, but every time there's an eclipse, because eclipses show you what's coming. And lay people, that's you guys if you're not astrologers, can actually get a real good predictive look at their own lives by keeping an eclipse diary during that time period that the eclipse is generating such intense energy. So what do? We go back 2 weeks before the first eclipse. So this would be not just 2 weeks back, because that was the lunar, but 2 weeks before that. So we'll go back 4 weeks, which would put us all the way back to August 6th. So you'll be starting your eclipse. Oh, let me just double check that. I think that's not quite far enough back. Let's see what this has. Oops, that's not going to do it. I'm looking for my calendar, and it's not coming up here. Oh, I'm so sorry, folks. That looks ugly. Let's see if I can correct that. You don't want to look at me. You want to look at the eclipse. That didn't do it. There we go. I am not a computer person. I'm not a technical person. So when you see me doing these things, it really shows you just how much my poor assistant Lisa has to put up with, because when it comes to anything technical, I do get it right eventually, but I bumble my way through it. So it makes people who have more technical skill pull their hair out. So thank you for being patient with me. And I don't have this calendar. Apparently it won't come up when I'm in GoToMeeting. I've tried. Oh, there it is. This time it came up. Okay, so we're going to go back. I don't know if you folks can see this, but now I've got a calendar here, so I pulled it up. So you're going to go back. Today's the 20th. You're going to go back 2 weeks to the 6th. That was the lunar. And then you're going to go back 2 weeks before that, which is going to take you all the way back to, it looks like, August. I can't go back that far. You're going to be going back until about the beginning of that last week of July. And I don't have the exact date, but it's 4 weeks back from where we are right now. So it's that beginning of the last week of July. That's when you're going to start your eclipse diary. And you're going to continue it for 2 weeks from now, which brings you up to September 3rd. Okay? So I don't have the exact date on that. Say, let's guesstimate from like July 25th. I like to pick a date so you have one. Write it down. From July 25th through September 3rd, you make your eclipse diary. And once again, just to be clear, you start 2 weeks before the first eclipse, and you go to 2 weeks after the last eclipse in that eclipse cycle. And that time period in there gives you your movie trailer into the next 6 months of your life. Now, why is that so important? Because you're getting things laid out right now. It's going to help you to make healthy choices and decisions over the next 6 months. So you can use those eclipses to guide your life. So just as an example, if under this eclipse period where they're most intense, I call it the eclipse cycle right here, under this eclipse cycle, if somebody is a friend of mine and they're maybe not making time for me, and I'm not getting to see much of them, and the things that they told me they were going to do for me or with me aren't happening because they've got too much stuff going on in their lives. And that's okay, because friends make space for each other. But supposing that's what's going on with this friend of mine right now. Now, 4 months from now, that same friend approaches me and says, Sandy, you know, I have this brilliant business idea. I think we should go into business together, and I can do this and this and this and this. And I'm going to go back and look at my eclipse diary, and I'm going to remember, because I wrote it down, that under the eclipse pattern, under this eclipse cycle we're experiencing right now, that 8-week period, under that cycle, this friend was nowhere to be seen. They had too much going on. They couldn't make time for me. They were otherwise occupied. And so I'm going to be very frank with that friend and say, you know, we have a very good friendship, and it's absolutely delightful, and I want to keep that. And I don't think going into business is going to be a good idea right now. Okay, so let's not do that. And because I had my eclipse diary, I'm going to be able to make that decision easily and clearly, and I'm going to save myself a whole lot of grief. Because if I had told that friend yes, it's a guarantee that somewhere over this next year or so, that friend wouldn't have time, wouldn't come through on things that were necessary for the business, and the business would crash. So, you understand how to use your eclipse diary, and you understand that that eclipse diary starts 2 weeks before the first eclipse and goes to 2 weeks after the last eclipse. This time around, you're going to start at July 25th and take it all the way up to September 3rd. Okay, now that eclipse diary works for individuals. It works for your emotional state. It works for you looking at the people who are close to you. Say you have children. If they have big things going on in their life, note them in your eclipse diary, because what's going on in their lives can affect you. So you're going to be able to just have a much better control over your life by having that eclipse diary. Now, there's something else I want to share about eclipses just before we get into the meat of this and have some fun with how it's going to be affecting each sign. And here's what I want to say on this. There's also something that astronomers have discovered. It's called a Saros cycle, and astrologers use it to get a real handle on cycles that come and repeat over a course of many years. And here's what a Saros cycle basically is. There is a specific point in the, and it's technical, it's in the ecliptic, etc., etc., it's technical. There's a specific point mathematically that that eclipse happens at that makes that particular eclipse very unique. But what's interesting is that that same point will repeat every 17 and a half years. And it repeats in a spiral going around the Earth. That's the way it appears, because the Earth's going around the sun, but it appears that it's going around us. So that every 17 years, we get another eclipse that would be at that same point, okay, with relative to the ecliptic. That's called the Saros cycle. So there'll be a first eclipse in that cycle, and then every 17 and a half years, there will be another eclipse that has to do with the flavor of that particular Saros cycle. Well, this particular eclipse that we are getting now it belongs to the Saros cycle 145 series. That means it's the 145th Saros cycle eclipse. There were 144 before that, and there are still others after that. But this particular eclipse started all the way back, ready for this, on January 4th of 1639. That was the first time this particular eclipse hit that point. And it's been repeating every 17 and a half years somewhere on the planet since then. And it will finish on April 17th of 3009. So we are really only midway through this Saros cycle. Saros cycles are important astrologically because they talk about evolution of ideas and evolution of the human beings on this planet as the eclipse moves through this pattern in this cycle. So if you want to have a good idea of what this particular Saros cycle eclipse, the one that's 145, is doing relative to the human race and relative to countries and nations and municipalities and families and cultures and you can go back and look at what was going on in the year of 1639, because those concepts, those ideas, those things that were launched back then are coming to new levels each time that Saros cycle eclipse 145 repeats. And this is a repeat that's midway through the evolution of this cycle. So it's not done, it's not ended. We're just getting to a new level. And here are some of the things, just because I went and looked them up, and I just wanted to tell you some of the things. Some of them are just fun. Virginia, okay, became the first colony, the very first colony that ordered You ready for this, folks, with what's going on with the attempts to legalize marijuana? This is really fun. Virginia became the first colony to order surplus tobacco destroyed. Okay, so there was this concept of here's what we do, we've got to figure out how to legalize and how to control this substance we're smoking. I thought that was kind of cool. And here it is on our plates again, only with a different substance. We also had the first in Connecticut. They developed their first constitution. It was called the Fundamental Order. And so Connecticut was the first state up there to have its constitution. So eventually our constitution in this country took a lot of its insight from that. Harvard was renamed. Okay, it used to be Cambridge. That was amazing. And it got renamed to Harvard, the university. It's an old university. Rhode Island was founded. It was that far back. Rhode Island actually became a state at that time. This one I liked. The very first school to be funded by local taxes. And we're looking at our educational system right now. That's a big thing politically that's on our administration's plate up in Washington in the USA today. And this was where the first school was funded by public taxes. Over in Europe, England and Scotland were having a war, and they made peace and they formed an agreement. So looking at communications, there were all kinds of things happening. The first printing press was developed in the U.S. There was a Spanish Armada defeat that was major and basically changed who was ruling the seas, who was the dominant power in the world at that time. At any rate, the list goes on and on and on. I encourage you, rather than me take up your valuable time going over all these things, I'm going to encourage you to go back, to dial into, you can check this out right on your computer, say what was happening in the year 1639. Because when you look at those highlights, okay, what was happening in the year 1639, those are things that are going to be getting worked on in the year 2017-18. Now, our next eclipse is going to be in January of 2018. So there will be a little bit of an overlap. This eclipse will peak and then decrease in its energy, and the new eclipse will come in early January. So this eclipse, the power of this eclipse, goes through the fall of 2017, and then will gradually merge with the next eclipse and then no longer be in effect unless you have made major changes and shifts in your life based on what's going on now, in which case these effects could last for a big, long part of your life. Now, let me mention one other thing about eclipses. If an eclipse falls exactly, like within 2 or 3 degrees, close to one of the planets in your chart, it will always, always, always be a life changer for you. Always. So write down on your piece of paper, if you have one, you can see on this diagram right here, this eclipse is at 28 degrees of Leo. So when you're done with this class this evening, this psychic hour, go online and dial up your astrology chart. All you've got to do is put your day, month, year of birth in to numerous sites on the web and say, show me my astrology chart. If you have your birth time, that's great. Then you can get a whole chart. But even without the birth time, it will give you the degree of each one of your planets, okay? And that's what you want, because you want to be able to see if you have any planet in your chart at 28 degrees. And if you don't know the time of your birth, you can put in, give me a chart that's cast for what we call a solar chart. It's just cast for that day. And then you can still get a chart. If you have your birth time, stick in your birth numbers and you'll get your chart. There are free services all over the web that will do this. So just type in, get me my astrology chart, and you'll be able to find one of those services and get it. If you have any planet at 28 degrees of Leo, or 28 degrees period, because then it's going to be aspected in some way, this eclipse is going to change your life. Period. It will. Now, if you can dial up your actual natal chart, like it would look similar to this, only it would be for your actual time of birth, well, then depending on the house, each one of these pie shapes in this chart is called a house. Depending on what house the eclipse fell in, even if you had no planets in it, at least for the next 6 months, or more like 5 months between now and January, you're going to be working on those qualities, those things connecting with that house. So let me just give you a real broad overview. Okay, I'm going to go down each one of the signs quick. You're an Aries. Okay, since this eclipse is happening in Leo, and Leo's a fire sign, and Aries is a fire sign, and incidentally so is Sagittarius. If you are a Sag or an Aries, this eclipse is actually going to be good for you. It's going to have the energy flowing. You're going to feel like dynamite. You're going to have high energy. By the way, the energy is going to come way up tomorrow night. Oh boy, because eclipse energy tends to fall and fall and fall and fall going into an eclipse. It's one astrologer that I studied with said that this is when all the souls are coming in that are going to be born between now and the next eclipse. So it's almost like our planet's being fertilized with souls who are about to get born. So as that energy comes in, as the eclipse comes in, the energy drops, and then after the eclipse happens, pow, it just gets released in this tremendous intensity. You'll notice the last 2 weeks under the lunar eclipse was very, very, very emotional, and then people's energy got dropped, and they got really upset, and all kind, people were crying at the drop of a hat. And then all of a sudden, as we came into the solar eclipse, people started to get a little bit more in touch with themselves. And then the solar eclipse energy is going to pass, and tomorrow we're all going to be racing through life with more energy than we know what to do with. And that's everybody, but if you are an Aries, a Sag, or a Leo, it's especially true for you, okay? Now, if you are an Aries, okay, if you are an Aries, you are going to have to deal with children, if you have them, over this next 4 or 5 months. If you're looking for romance, it's coming your way, which is really great. If you're not, if you're married, you might want to just be careful of some of those friends that you don't get too close. Okay. It's going to be a great time if you're an Aries for your creative abilities. Just a great, wonderful time. It should be fun, and you're very lucky right now. If you're a Taurus, take care of those everyday things in your life, and particularly over this next 4 or 5 months, watch your health, watch health issues for you and the people close to you. Do not overcommit. Do not give a commitment to something that you're not really willing to take on, because guaranteed it's going to be a burden more than you expect. If you're a Gemini, you are going to be focusing on your one-on-one relationships over this next 4 or 5 months. You are going to be needing to evaluate many of the people in your lives, and you're going to be concerning yourself with the finances of your mate and your partner as well. If you are a Cancer, you're going to be focusing on family matters. You're going to be focusing specifically on finances concerning those family matters. That's going to be a big part of what you're dealing with over this next 4 or 5 months. You may have to cut those kids' allowances. You may have to look at where the finances are going and say, okay, this is a new budget we're dealing with. If you are a Leo, this eclipse is hitting your sun sign dead on. So if you're a Leo, it's time for you. It's time for you to evaluate what you want, where you want to be, what you want to have. It's time for you to get in touch with you and stop chasing other people that you think have what you want or are what you want. It's time for you to become what you want yourself. So this next 4 or 5 months, you're going to be really looking at your own needs and your own desires and kind of reinventing the wheel concerning yourself. If you are a Virgo, okay, if you're a Virgo, oh, and by the way, one other thing with Leo, expect some travel, Leo. Expect some travel. Travel is going to be a big thing for you over this next 4 or 5 months as well. You might be visiting somebody that's very important for you. You might be making plans with that person who's very important. If you're a Virgo, guess what, my friend? You have got career changes coming up, big time career changes. And, what do you really want to do with your life? Now is a time, Virgo, for you to say, okay, this is where I want to earn my living. This is what I want to do for my living. These are my natural talents, my natural abilities. This is how I want to employ them. And you're going to be kind of splitting hairs with your finances, figuring out how to balance everything and make it work. This is going to be your time to get your act together financially and get on top of things to make your life flow. How about if you are a Libra? If you're a Libra, you're going to be involved with your friends. You're going to be doing more social things. You're going to be involved with siblings. And a lot of the people around you are going to be needing your help. And you are going to be there because that's your nature. And so in the next 4 or 5 months, there's going to be a lot of social activity. And it's a good time to write that book. It's a good time to learn that new thing you've been wanting to learn and study as well, that you just might be able to develop into your own career. How about if you're a Scorpio? If you're a Scorpio, you'd better be paying attention to home, family, to the security issues, to the health of family members. That's kind of like gathering the family together, and there could be some power exchanges at home in the family. It could be that you've got to establish what you want before you try to push it onto the other people, because minds are going to change. Circumstances are going to change. Look at what's going on in your life right now. So this next 4 or 5 months, it's going to be about, where do you want to be? Where's your home? Who's in your home? Taking care of and being responsible for those people in your home. And financially, getting everything stable in your home environment. Home and family are where it's at. And you're always concerned with finance, so finance is going to figure in there as well. If you are a Sagittarius, very creative time for you. Very, very creative. If you're a Sagittarius, I'm going to expect that you are going to have this opportunity to move forward with your creativity, to develop some either skill or ability that you can get some focus on yourself. You can get rewards for whatever this is that you're doing with your creative skills and abilities over this next 4 or 5 months. And it's a time to be a child again. And I know you don't feel that way because you've had Saturn going through your sun sign, you poor Sagittarians, for the last 2.5 years. And life has been work, 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 and something of a struggle. Well, this is an opportunity to start to lay some groundwork for enjoying life, for yourself, for bringing that little kid out again, for saying this is something that I do for me. And certainly if you have children or if you have somebody that you care for that is like a child to you, this is where your attention is going to be going, a tremendous amount of attention on that individual. Now, how about if you're Capricorn? Capricorn's focus is going to be on setting a foundation for something in work or health. Very, very important to work on the foundation setting in your life, especially where it concerns your health, the health of family and friends, people that perhaps your finances depend upon, and setting that foundation for how you want to handle your work, your day-to-day life experience in the future. It's time to really kind of look around and say, what do I need? What do I not need? And start renovating your life. If you are an Aquarian, we are back to your having this really powerful need to focus on those one-on-one relationships, to look at those relationships in your life and open the doorway of communication so that you're able to really communicate well what your needs are and listen to what their needs are. There's going to need to be a lot of, I think of it as meetings of the mind, a lot of diplomacy, a lot of reaching out. Things in your life are shifting. And frankly, you're feeling very out of control. Old patterns for you are repeating. And you're going through a tremendous amount of fear. And having those relationships that are close to you, open and communicative, is very important. So diplomacy is high on your list over this next 4 months. And the final sign in the zodiac, Pisces, okay, is needing to be really concerned with money, with finance. Don't you love it? And particularly finance, go back to look at your home and your family. But finance is very, very important, and you seem to be splitting that finances. So it may be that you're supporting 2 homes or 2 families, or you've got, you're trying to make a transition from one period of life to another, from one job to another. There's shifting finances around you, Pisces, and you've got to be taking care of your responsibilities while you're on top of those shifting finances and paying close attention to your budget and handling things properly is very, very important. So keep your eclipse diary. That's going to give you more direct information than I just gave you. And what I just gave you was kind of a general overview for how the eclipse is going to be affecting you by sign. And now what I've got here isn't our normal horary chart that I put up. What I've got here is the chart for the eclipse from where I will be seeing it in Punta Gorda, since I'm going to be doing readings for you here this evening. And I'm still going to give you folks a chance to talk. I promised you I would. And now's your chance. So whatever questions you have, here are my rules, my guidelines. When Lisa calls on you, so you have to raise your hand or type your question in the chat box. When you get called on, I would like to know your name, your sun sign, where you're calling from, that's always important, and then your question. And I'm going to be able to give you some good information as to what kinds of things are coming up for you. And folks, even if you're not getting your question answered, please, please, please listen to every word, because my guides have a way of using someone else's question to answer yours. So your answers are going to be here if you're on this call. Lisa, who's our first person?
Okay, our first caller for tonight is going to be Clayton. Clayton, you're unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. How are you, Clayton?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Sandy? I'm so happy to be on here. I'm such a huge fan. My name is Clayton, and I am a Libra. I live in Dallas, Texas. And do you want me to say what I'm most grateful for?
Yes, I do. And thank you for remembering, because I've forgotten, and I should never, ever forget that, because that's probably the most important thing.
I am most grateful for my mother and my dog. And my question is, well, is it okay if I have 2 questions?
Well, I can probably fit them both in. We'll go fast.
Okay. The first question is, what do you see happening with me and my mediumistic readings, not only quality-wise, but also business-wise?
Okay, first of all, I want to address the fact that you are a Libra, Clayton. Jupiter, as you can see from this horary chart that we cast for the eclipse, which is actually for tomorrow, but the horary is for tonight, it has Jupiter in Libra. And that says that this is, number one, a wonderful time for you to expand your friendships, to make connections with friends that could help you to expand that mediumship, to expand your readings in general. Okay. Jupiter is a co-ruler of Pisces, and Pisces is one of those signs which is, well, we call it the most intuitive of all of the signs, the most receptive. It deals with clairvoyance, and it usually people who bring that Piscean energy in do have natural mediumship abilities. Pisces, of course, is a water sign. So with Jupiter in Libra, folks, are you listening? All of you Librans are getting this elevated psychism right now. You're all getting this elevated empathy, this elevated ability to intuit and to pick up thoughts and feelings from the people around you. Please be aware of that. And you're also being given opportunities to expand in whatever your chosen field or your chosen area is. So that's number one. So this is a good time for that. But I want to talk about something. Clayton, I'm disturbed about this. Are you living with Mom?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Clayton, I'm just going to, I got to be blunt. Mom, or your connection with Mom, is interfering with your mediumship.
I know. I intuitively have been really picking up on that.
Now that,
Like they're
yeah. So now I'm real. I love family. Okay, I am the only one left in my family. I love family, and I've got to tell you that it's really important when you have that empathic, telepathic, wonderful, heartfelt bond with somebody that's close to you. It's the most wonderful thing in the world. But when it comes to being able to completely clear your energy, which must happen if you are to do mediumship properly, okay? Can't do it if you can't clear, you can't make the right connection. And
right.
your mom isn't clear. So no matter
Right.
how clear you're getting yourself, if you don't, when you're actually, you don't have to push her away, if you're doing one reading a day, well, for 23 hours, you and she can be close. But in that 24th hour, when you're doing that reading, you have to completely step out of the mom energy. Mom can't exist. And you
Right.
have to be in that channel to be able to do the proper mediumship. Are you capable of doing this? Oh, absolutely you are. And you have done great mediumship readings. My guides are telling me that. You have tremendous skill and potential, but you're not going to reach your potential unless you can develop that clarity. And you can't get to that clarity if you're worried about Mom.
Right. And I think I mean I do during the time that I do give my readings, I do separate. And I think that the main thing that is really pulling me down is she's not really, her belief systems are not in an area that are congruent with me practicing mediumship. And this
And Clayton,
type of
it gets resolved. We've got your answer. And by the way, I know I'm hearing so many, I'm getting the whiplashes all through. It's like there's this giant web that this call hits. And I'm just feeling so many people on the lines with us right now who are going, oh, that's me. Oh my goodness, this person's connecting. And you see, Clayton, it's not you that's making the connection. It's her. And when you clear yourself, that's when she pushes in at you the most. Okay?
yes.
Oh my God, Clayton's
Yes.
gone. I gotta go get him. So that's when the phone's gonna ring. That's when she's knocking on the door, or that's when she's making loud noises, or that's when she's building up
Yes.
the stew so she can yell at you when you come out about something. And even when you are, in a good space doing your reading, that energy pushing on you from outside is taking so much away from what you would be giving to your client. You're only giving your clients 20% of yourself.
Right. Because I noticed that used to my connection would be so much more clearer, and now I feel like that there's kind of like static on the line. I still am able to make that connection, but it just feels more staticky.
Yeah, and so it's a static connection, which means it's not as quite as clear. You're not getting quite as fulfilling information as you would get. And the other thing is that whereas you used to be able to see 5 clients a day, now you see 3, and you have to sleep for the whole next day because it took so much energy to do that. Okay?
Right.
So what I'm going to suggest, my guides are fixers. What I'm going to suggest is that you look into doing your readings in a New Age store, or perhaps a church or an organization that does this, where you are not on Mom's radar, where you're not in the same house with her when you're doing your work, and all she needs to know is you're going to work. Okay?
Right.
And
Perfect.
for you, that's going to be a solution. But if you, and I know it's a horrible thing to say, but until your lives part in some way where you're no longer living in her space, you're not really going to be able to have an office in your home and be able to grow and develop the way you're really capable of.
Okay.
Okay?
I totally agree with that.
And I want
So,
to thank you so much for asking that question, Clayton, because I attract a lot of pros and people who aspire to be professional readers, and I know there are a lot of them on this call tonight. And your question is aspiring to so many people. When my own dad was dying of alcohol-related dementia, he was in the VA for about 6 years, and even in the VA, I could feel him reaching out for me and trying to get me. And of course, when I would go into a reading and I'm open to get that information, I could feel Dad trying to pick at it. Okay, and we were
yeah.
miles apart, and so I had to basically put up shields when I would do a reading, so that Dad could not get in. Otherwise, he would be taking that energy because for him that was life. You see.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's having people we love them. We don't want to cut them off because they're so important to us. But we do have to find ways of dealing with them that will allow us to grow and be who we need to be. Okay.
I do kind of feel though like when she gets to that place in her own belief system that it's okay, I think maybe it'll get better than what it is, but I think that like ultimately I'll still need to separate.
Yes, yes. The reason it won't change is because you're, Clayton, your closeness with her is kind of like me and my sister was, who just passed, or me and my dad. It's almost symbiotic. And for me, when they would roll over in bed at night, or if they had a night when they couldn't sleep, I was awake. Okay, and and you do the same thing with your mom. And
Right.
for those of us, and folks, it's probably 90% of the people on this call. I'm just hearing you laughing. Literally, I'm hearing people laughing. And, I can say that if we don't recognize this, and it's not our loved ones' responsibility to change. They are who they are. They're fine the way they are. It's our responsibility to recognize what's happening and to change how we allow them to interconnect with us. You see?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you have
Makes
a second
perfect
question?
sense. Yeah, and this question actually I think is for everybody really. Um, what does the eclipse mean to us sensitives and mediums in particular energetically? And especially how like does that relate to the Mercury retrograde too that's
Well,
happening?
I'm going to be just giving this broad general here, but again, that was a really good question. I would say that everyone on this call is a sensitive, whether you are a professional or aspiring psychic or not. You wouldn't be interested in this field if you weren't a natural empath or telepath or in some way sensitive to vibrations that other people cannot see, or I think it was the normal people in the world cannot see. And after all,
Right.
nobody's really normal anymore anyway. Everybody's
Right.
becoming psychic. So how does it affect us? Particularly, and this is in any eclipse, okay? Remember I said eclipses come where there's always a solar, and then there will be a lunar either 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after, and
Right.
sometimes there's one of each, okay?
Okay.
Sometimes, very rarely, you could have two before and one after, or one before and two after. Sometimes you get three lunars with, and boy, are those rough. The one that affects us psychics, us sensitives, isn't the solar, it's the lunar. Just like
Okay.
we know scientifically that people who are in mental institutions, or people who have emotional problems of any kind or who are sensitive, the their issues always get elevated around the full moon. Okay, friends I've had who, my assistant for one, who worked in mental institutions, always know that they've got to put extra people on around the time of the full moon, because those people with emotional problems are much more likely to act out around that time. Well, when we have an eclipse of the moon, which happened 2 weeks ago, that's when the energy on the planet really caves. It drops, going into that lunar eclipse. It really caves. And it hits us in an emotional way. So there's this intense emotion, and there's not enough energy to go around. It feels like we're being sucked dry. And the result is that people in general tend to get more frantic, more anxious, more fearful. Any of their normal, natural emotions get elevated. And in the case where the eclipse is before the solar eclipse, it's a little worse than it is if it's after the solar eclipse, because normally after the eclipse, the energy starts to come up, but we're going into a solar. So it just starts to come up after that lunar, and then it turns around and it crashes going into the solar. And so the emotional energy gets more and more and more and more and more and more intense until we get until like a day before the solar, when it begins to finally start to come up a little bit, and it doesn't really get released until after the solar. And boy, have we seen it. We've seen people going crazy about somebody dropping a paper pin, you know?
Yeah.
It's been just crazy, you know? And there have been some really big things going on. There have been, you know, my sister passed under this eclipse. That was big for me. Somebody that I was trying to get some help for, their poor dog was attacked by another dog. I had that on my Facebook. So I mean, there have been a lot of major things that have been going on for people. So I don't want to diminish it, but the thing is that because of that lunar eclipse happening before the solar, even little emotional things became super big things. And thank God, tomorrow is the solar eclipse, and as soon as the solar eclipse passes, the energy level will come back up. And when the energy level comes up, people are going to breathe easier, they're going to be less stressed out, less tense, and they're going to be starting to get more in touch with their higher self, their centered part of themselves, whereas before they were being controlled by their emotional self. And that's everybody. But of course, how does it affect we empaths, we psychics, we sensitives? We end up being the point it all gets pushed on. So if we're not careful, we can get pulled along with that, you know, I think it is the crowd mentality. If we're not careful, all of a sudden we're not these centered, wonderful leaders of others that we all want to be. All of a sudden we want to be out there ranting and yelling and screaming and stomping our feet because we've gotten pulled into the rage or the fear or the worry or. You see? So, yes, and yes, that was another good question, because I think a lot of people all over the world have been getting wrapped up in all of these kinds of things. And after tomorrow, things are going to start to get a little bit easier. And then the further away we get from that eclipse, they'll be a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier. But remember, there's another eclipse next January. So the same pattern happens again. Okay?
Right. So do you think that during this time, does our connection to the other side increases or decreases, or doesn't affect it at all?
Actually, I think I'm going to look at it both technically, and by the way, that's a third question. So we've got people getting...
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm going to answer it, okay, because it does pertain to people. That's actually a two-edged question, because the spiritual side of the eclipse, which is, as I said before, the Earth being seated in an astrological, way of belief. This is the Earth is being seated with the souls that are coming in between now and the next eclipse. So, in a spiritual sense, this higher self connection is very powerful on and around the solar eclipse, like we're going to have tomorrow. Very powerful. Great communication. Great time for getting in touch with who you need to be as a higher individual. And yet, that lunar eclipse that came 2 weeks before, believe me, there is nothing spiritual about that. Okay?
Okay.
Eclipse was a full moon. It's more powerful as a full moon than it normally would be. And, whatever you do, keep your emotions under control on those lunar eclipses. Because, if you're approaching it from I'm going to create something in my life point of view, and you've got a tremendous amount of anger or fear or whatever, what are you going to be putting into what you're projecting? So, lunar eclipses can be over-emotional is what I'm saying. Okay?
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. I really appreciate it.
For your good questions. And Lisa, who is my next Victim.
And our next caller is going to be Darlene. Darlene, you were unmuted.
Hello, Darlene. Hello. I can't hear you, Darlene, so I'm thinking you may be muted on your end. Can you unmute? Can click your microphone? You might be muted on your own end because we can't hear you. Lisa, while she's trying to figure that out, since we're running out of time quickly here, please move on to our next person. And Darlene, if you figure it out, we'll come back to you. Otherwise, you can type your question in the chat room and Lisa will tell me.
All right, our next caller is going to be Tracy. If I can get her unmuted. Tracy, can you unmute yourself? It says you're self-muted.
Yes.
There you go.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. My name's Tracy. I'm a Taurus, and I'm from Wake Forest, North Carolina. And I'm most grateful for my children and my relationships with them. And my question today was, I was recently dating a man with anxiety and depression issues. He's been very depressed and has pushed me away. And I'm just wondering, should I listen to him and walk away, or should I keep trying to be there for him? Does he need me to be the person that doesn't give up on him?
Oh, dear. I'm so grateful that I'm recording this and that Lisa's going to send you a link to the recording. When you hear your question, you are going to answer it in your next breath. Because what you just said is that this man has pushed you away because he's going through this severe depression. And there you are saying, should I allow him to do this, or does he really need me to come back and try to fix his depression? What do you think? Can you fix somebody?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And honestly, if I were going to be really mean, and well, I may as well be mean. My God, go for it, Sandy. So I'm going to go for it. He didn't push you away because he expected you to go. He pushed you away because he's using it like the proverbial rubber band to pull you in tighter. And then he'll push you away again and pull you in tighter. And, it's important because you can't get somebody else's energy unless they become really emotionally involved with you.
Right.
This man is a psychic vampire. I would look around at, and by the way, I would walk away from him. I think this is a beautiful golden opportunity. Okay, you do not need a vampire in your life. You've got your wonderful children, and
Yeah.
and you guess what? You might want to spend the rest of your life giving your life force to somebody who's never going to fix themselves because they get a better lollipop by being sick. Okay, you are, you can't afford to do that because you've got to give yourself to your kids.
Right.
Frankly, even if you didn't have your kids, I would be saying, oh, what a golden opportunity to say, oh, yeah, I'll definitely obey your wishes. Because guess what? There's somebody else out there who's a high energy, wonderful, responsible person who does bounce off the walls emotionally, okay? Isn't going to ask you to be somebody that you're not, and you don't have to fix him. I'm going to leave you with one last bit of advice.
Okay. Okay.
You are, I'm like you. I call you and I fixers. Okay?
Yeah.
A bird sits in front of my door and it looks like it's got, a broken wing, and I've got to either get out there myself to take it to the vet and get it fixed, or I've got to call animal control to get it fixed. And then before the animal control gets there, the bird flies away because it was just scratching itself. Okay?
Yeah.
Fixers. Okay? And here's my recommendation to you. In your work, fix people. Get paid for it. Okay?
Okay.
Get paid for it. Because you are somebody who loves to help and you love to be there, and you replay this tape, you need to go back to him because he needs you. You are one of those people who feels most loved when someone needs you. The problem is that when you get into a relationship like this one, that person isn't just going to need you to be there with him. He's going to need your world, your life, your everything. And you want a partner, don't you? You don't really want somebody who's going to be, a third child. Okay.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
get paid to take care of the people who need you. And
Okay.
in your next love relationship, the kind of need that you're looking for is the person who needs you because they love being with you and they love sharing with you and they
Exactly.
love companionship with you, not
Mm-hmm.
because they need you to be their crutch.
Right.
You got to separate those two.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Again, I'm hearing a whole lot of other people on the call saying, "Oh yeah, yep, I've been there." Okay? And I want to say that to you because sometimes you get mad at yourself and you say, "Why do I do this? Why don't I see that?" And it's because you're a really nice person. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with being a nice person, and it's the thing that's good is that you can now be a nice person who's also an aware person. Okay,
Right. Okay.
good luck.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And Lisa, I'm going to go over a little bit because I talked so much. I want to give a few more people a chance. So, who's next?
Okay, our next caller is going to be Jody. Jody, you're
Hello, Jody. I can't hear you, so you're not muted or you're not unmuted. Lisa, is she self-muted?
No, she's not.
Okay, maybe she stepped away from the computer. Okay, let's go on to our next person.
Alrighty, our next person is Pat. Pat, you're unmuted.
Andy, this is Pat from Land O'Lakes,
Hello, Pat.
and I'm a Scorpio. Can you hear me?
I can.
Good. Okay. I'm a Scorpio, and I am most grateful for my tribe, my wonderful friends, and my family. And I want to tell you that I just think you look fabulous tonight.
Thank you. Oh, you made my night.
You really look good. I have finally gotten to the point, being a fixer like you, where I've fixed everyone I had to fix. And now it's my time. I don't know where to begin. Is there anything in my chart that might give me some clues?
Yeah, I want you to look at this chart. You've studied a little bit of astrology. And remember I said Scorpio's taking care of home things under this eclipse. And here in this house of home is Neptune and Chiron, the healing planetoid in Pisces. Who do you think you should take care of and fix next?
Me.
Yeah.
But
do you even know
where do I start?
Right. Where do you start? Okay. And isn't that a beautiful question to ask? I mean, just to be, folks, everybody listen to this. Pat is having the opportunity to say, what do I want? If I could have or do or be anything, and it's for me, and I don't have to have somebody else, not even the dog, telling me what to do it, how to do it, when to do it, what do I want? Okay? So you've got to, Pat, make yourself, start lists. What is it that you want in your life? Okay? And that's a scary one. Folks, so many of us, we think that we want something because we've been conditioned to want it by our family or our life experience. And so when we start to focus on what it is we actually want, and then we look back at ourselves and say, well, why do I want it? That's the key. I want this. Why do I want it? Because when we answer the why do I want it, in answering that why, you're going to come to an understanding if it's really your want or your conditioned want, or you're wanting it out of, what somebody else's need was. Well, if I do this, is it going to make somebody else happy? And all of a sudden why do I want this? Do I want this because it's going to complete me? Do I want this because it's something I've never had and I want to have the joy of seeing what it's like? Why do I want it? What is it I want? And then why do I want it? And that's going to clarify for you what you really want. And that's the issue for you right now. You know you want to fix yourself, and you don't know what parts of you need fixing to be happier or more content or, and yet you know you want to grow. And so you're growth motivated and you're growth oriented. And the only way you're going to get in touch with what you want to change in your life and what you want to move forward into is by going through that. What do I want? Why do I want it? Then look back. Do I still want it? Maybe it's time to change what I wanted. I wanted that 10 years ago. I don't need that now. What do I want now? And then what am I going to do to get it?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that, I think, is a great question to end on, because, Pat, I think that really addresses so many other people's questions who are on this call. Okay? Folks, I know that I spent a lot of time on tonight's call talking about the eclipse, but I think it was worthwhile because so many of you are going to be able to use that information in a very worthwhile way in your own life. What I'm going to make you this offer, since you have been through and stuck with me right up until the end of this call, I'm going to allow everybody who's been here on the call one question. You can direct that to me, or if you direct it to Lisa, she'll send it to me. And give me a time, because sometimes when there's so many people on the call, it takes me a while to get to them, but I will answer everybody's just one question. And remember, you have had to be on the call. You can't sign up afterwards, and you can't sign up when you see the video. You had to have been here, and I will answer you that one question. Thank you so much, everybody. And remember, write it on your calendar. The next psychic hour is September 17th. I'm looking forward to seeing you all back here then, and I'll be able to get through more readings with you because there isn't an eclipse in September. So long. Good night, everybody.